This next example is all about close assault. The way that close assault works is it basically gives infantry a fighting chance against a tank. When all else fails, the infantry can move adjacent to this tank, for example this Panther tank here, and attempt to take it out with a close assault using improvised means, sticky bombs, grenades, etc. So the way a close assault works is, in a little tip, it's best to do it when you have the initiative. So as the US player, we're going to assume the US player has initiative here. Okay, so, and the reason for that is in the combat phase, when this actually executes, you will get the first choice of an attack to resolve, and you would likely resolve the close assault first, because it's a pretty risky attack. Okay, so there's a couple things that happen that you have to keep in mind. To be okay to close assault, you have to be adjacent to the target. So in the movement phase, you're going to move units that you want to participate in this close assault adjacent to the target. Now, what is an infantry unit that is okay to close assault? Well, one of the key requirements is it has to normally be able to affect tanks. So if you see no value for the tank unit icon here, you can't participate in a close assault. So the sniper, not normally firing or affecting tanks, cannot be a member of the close assaulting group. So we're going to look at these other units. We've got a 30 cal machine gun team, a couple of rifle squads, and a bazooka team. So in the movement phase, the US player moves these units adjacent to the target. And they can be adjacent to the target from different areas. So they can be, north and south of the target, or all on the same side. It doesn't matter. Now remember that diagonal is not considered adjacent to the target. So this is not adjacent. So it's got to be adjacent to either on either of the four sides here. So when you close assault, you're going to declare in the combat phase that you're doing a close assault as a group. And so the way you mark that is just take one targeting counter pair and sight it on your close assault target. Now what happens though in the movement phase? Something important does happen: opportunity fire. When these units move into range of close assault, you have, as the German player, an opportunity to fire against one of them. That could potentially break up the close assault, because you need at least 3 infantry units to have a legal close assault at the time the assault is executed, which is in the combat phase. So let's get back to the movement phase for just a moment. These units move into place, and the tank gets an opportunity fire against his choice of one of the 4. So we've got 4 infantry units. So the tank may actually take out one, but it's smart of the US player to have at least 4, so that there's less of a chance of, in the combat phase, not having enough to actually execute the assault and be more vulnerable. So this Panther is going to be firing at the LMG team, just as trying to break up the assault a bit. So he gets a free attack in the movement phase. This is opportunity fire. And he's going to fire against infantry using his main gun. 11 or better, and that is a hit. And actually it's a close range bonus, so he actually gets a bonus of 3, so it would be 8 or better. So that is a hit. Rolling a 7 and a 10, a 10 plus the DI of the weapon means that this LMG team has been destroyed. Okay, so one of the units was taken out. That was his free opportunity fire attack. However, the other 3 are still going to be able to execute this assault. So in the combat phase, you're going to mark that you're doing so. You're going to declare verbally that you're doing a close assault with these units so that the other player knows what's going on. And combat phase, you would also, as a German player, maybe declare to fire against another one of the infantry units. But remember, in this case, and a good tip, have initiative when you do a close assault, so that you get to choose the first attack. So the US player with initiative is going to choose to execute this assault as his first choice of attack in the combat phase. We check that he has at least 3 units that can normally affect tanks and vehicles, which he does. And so the assault is okay to execute. Now, how do you roll for attack? Well, you're not going to use the actual weapons of these squads and teams. You're going to use the best attack value versus tanks or vehicles of any unit in the group. So we see here that the bazooka team has a 9 to hit a tank or vehicle. And that means that his value is best. So, another good practice for the US player, or the close assaulting player I should say, is if you have in your hand a command card that you maybe want to burn, this is a good time to use that card for its dual purpose. Remember, you can always discard a command card to increase the odds of any roll in the game, maximum of 1 card at a time, by +1. So when you're attacking, you only get to roll once. So it's a good time to burn a command card, just another tip, for +1 on that attack roll. So let's go ahead and, as the US player, roll for attack. I need a 9 or better, but since I burnt a card, I need an 8 or better. So the US player rolls, and this US player rolls a 10. So that is a hit, which means that the close assault was a success. Now, how do you determine damage? Since we're not firing the actual weapons of each of these units, we're going to roll 1d10 for every close assaulting infantry unit, and then apply that to the target. So 3d10 is potentially a lot of damage, maybe enough to damage the unit. The more infantry you have, the more d10s you get to roll. So let's see here. 9, 2, and 2. So that's 11 and 2 is 13. 13 points of damage is applied to the unit. Now, that in this case with a Panther, which is a tough unit to take out, that's still not quite enough to damage it, just by the way I rolled. But we're going to apply it as if there's more attacks here coming. So for example, you might have a Sherman firing at the Panther as well, which is going to accumulate that damage in this turn. So it's good to stack these attacks together. Now, 13 points minus 7 is going to be 6 points of damage getting through on the 20. So we mark that he's temporarily down to 14. And the close assault is complete. Now if you had more infantry during this assault, you'd be rolling more d10s potentially, and adding even more damage when you execute that assault. So it's good to have at least, you have to have at least 3, but it's not uncommon to use 4 or 5 infantry units to try and really stack that damage onto a Tiger or a Panther. That is a tough unit to take out. So just to see what happens, the Panther would now fire on his previously declared attack. This shows you how risky this is. Gets a bonus of 3 because he's close range. 8 or better, that's a hit with a 9. And the main gun, 4 and 7, is 11. Minus 0 is going to be 11 points directly on the rifle squad. So he's down to 4 remaining, and he draws a damage card. The damage effect is casualty. No attack with first listed weapons, so you just lost your rifleman. So he's down to 4, but there's another attack coming with these MG34s. Remember the bonus of 3 because he's 1 space away. He needs a 10 or better. He gets 3 rolls. That's a hit. 1 and 1 is 2 more points. There's no defense, so he's down to 2. And then 2 more rolls, 10 or better. That's another hit. 9 and 1 is going to finish off that squad. So that just is, we went ahead and executed his planned attack just to show you that this is a risky move, but sometimes it is going to pay off as the U.S. player, especially when you don't really have any other options at the moment. For example, no aircraft, or there's a aircraft restriction on the scenario, or your tanks are gone or not yet drawn or in play. So sometimes these close assaults can really pay off and damage the Panther or damage the Tiger. That's a hard unit to take out. And sometimes it's just a risky maneuver that doesn't pay off. So that's part of determining when to do it and when not. So anyway, that is an overview of close assault. Now, when the assault is done, units, they don't have to, they're technically going into the space and back out. They can retreat back to the adjacent space where they came from. That's the easiest way to do it. Now, if, for example, a unit is destroyed, this is one more point of a close assault. Let's say that this resulted in unit destruction. If the Panther was destroyed, say it was already damaged a lot, and the close assault took it all the way out. The highest roll of the assaulting group, so for example, we rolled a 2 and a 2 and a 9. So let's say that we destroyed this unit. What happens to the crew? Well, how do you determine crew survival when you have 3 different rolls? In this case of a close assault, you're going to use the highest roll of the group to determine crew survival of the assaulted unit. So in this case, a 9 would mean that that tank crew is also destroyed, and both would be removed from the map.